Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast are of the presenters and the presenters only and do not represent the views, opinions, or strategies of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Please like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Please leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
And welcome back, everybody. It's been a couple weeks. Here we are, episode 88, The Crazy Eights, 2024 convention recap. James, myself, and Bill. So how's your time away from the microphone been, James?
It was quite hectic. 2.5 day drive across the country to go to National Convention. The week before I was working the route and then drove the 2.5 days back home after that. Beat you back because you ran into quite a few problems on the way, I heard. But I apparently stayed ahead of all of those.
I didn't have any problems.
Oh, you mean the car fire and the closed exits?
That was one.
Then on the way there and on the way back, I made a few touristy stops. Got to see the old Pony Express station on the way there, and the Golden Spike Tower at Bailey Yard for Union Pacific. That was cool to see. They still have 2 active hump yards there. You can watch them working. And then ran all the way over to convention. Spent the week there, and got to see a lot of people from the podcast, as well as a lot of friends that I've developed over the last few years working with the union. Lots of good work put in and other things to talk about with that. Then on the way back, I did 15 straight hours the first day and got to the hotel and got an alert that I was close to the Union Pacific Big Boy, the largest steam locomotive ever built. And that it was traveling to Chicago from Wyoming. So I ended up pulling off at the same town that the Pony Express station's in and caught the big boy actually running down the rails under its own power. So that was cool to see. And got back the next day after that and went back to my route on Wednesday because apparently I had made sure to put Tuesday off as well, which helped me to start cleaning up the tree that had fallen in my yard from the storms while we were at convention. Did a lot of damage around here. But running the route was up and down all week. Mini mail survey, of course. According to the sub that ran my route, I actually got 2 days where I got a full set of DPS as random letters in my mini mail survey this time around. So I'm really happy about that. And now we're here for this episode. How about you, Bill? How was your time off?
I took the easy way off. I flew in and I flew out, so it was all 1-day journeys for me. The convention itself was, entertaining, insightful, and it's great to see all the people that we have on our side, getting the support from everybody, getting suggestions and comments from individuals that like to see the change. And our hotel was fabulous. We had a great room, James. Nice big shower, plenty of hot water, and the facilities I thought were pretty well laid out. That you could get food just about anywhere. It's just a matter of getting in line. And the hotel staff there, they were all very, very kind, except for the gentleman who forgot to put my laundry in on Sunday, which caused a bit of consternation for Tuesday on me. But travel was good. Food was good. What food we could get when we could get it. And that's one thing about the conventions. You eat on the fly, and you don't have a decent meal until, Friday night when we went to the M3. I think that's the first sit down we really had.
Yeah.
And that was the end of the convention, and the adrenaline's over. I mean, even caucus night was almost like anticlimactic for us. It wasn't as geared up as it has been in the past. But all in all, it's good to be home. But I miss my friends that I meet there. Get to see my co-host and get grandbaby pictures and everything. So it's good to be home. And I came home. I worked my Tuesday after the holiday, which turned into a fiasco because we're short trucks. So I got an hour and 14 minutes of wait time there. And then I had to call out Wednesday, Thursday for respiratory infection. And went in Friday morning not feeling all that good. And my sub had inadvertently showed up. And she said, "Do you want to go home?" I said, "See ya." So I was out the door. Not too concerned about the mini mail survey. It represents 6%, and I have an excellent sub. So I'd have to say that I can't see anything changing much for me except for the additional footage that I'll get in the SD&C that they haven't put onto our 3240s yet after we moved up to Wayne, our Westchester office, because of the fire. So that'll be interesting to see how much more time that adds on to my 67-hour route. Other than that, it's been a nice quiet weekend. Grandson over, just enjoying the cooler weather. Oh my God, it's 58 degrees right now. God, I love it. So, this coming week looks like it's going to be a nice, cool week, and forward to it and getting back into the swing of things. How about you, Kristen? Grandmom?
Well, yes. Since we were last on, my grandson was born August 20th, and everything went great. And 6 pounds, 8 ounces, 19 and a half inches long. He's doing awesome. It just really hurt that they didn't get sprung from the hospital till 9 p.m. Wednesday evening. Got my daughter and grandson home and loaded my car and left with my dad by 10:30, 11 o'clock. And drove my dad home, slept at mom and dad's, and got up and left Michigan about 10:30 in the morning on Thursday morning and got into Reno Saturday evening. Yeah, drove straight through. Had a couple, stayed one night with one of our listeners and had breakfast, and that was fun. Thank you, that was great hospitality. Slept on the road the second night, but hey, I don't mind doing that. And then we had our convention. It was great to meet some new people, see a bunch of old friends, and had a great time. My 2 roommates were pretty awesome. Can't complain. We had that huge room, and yeah, it went well. And then I ended up not leaving Reno till about 6:30 Saturday evening, as one of my roommates' flight wasn't till about midnight to go home. So her and I hung out and had a spa day, actually. So I had a foot massage, and we hung out at the spa at the resort, and I finally, about 6:30, decided I needed to get some pavement up from underneath me and hit the road. I got about 2.5 hours down the road and called it. And then I got home about 10:30-ish on Tuesday night, but I didn't have to be back to work till Thursday. So I got lots of baby cuddles all day Wednesday and every day since after work, and then of course my K day yesterday, and yeah, that was the wrap up of my driving and grandbaby. So guys, I only had one little hang up coming back. There was a car accident fire on I-80, and they just rerouted us around on 2-lane road, so it wasn't that big of a deal coming home. But the rest of that, it was smooth traveling for the rest of the trip, there and back. What Sunday? Ooh. I forgot. Yeah, Sunday a group of us went to Lake Tahoe for a dinner cruise. Sunday after I got there, and that was fun and gorgeous, and knocked a few things off the bucket list. Stopped at the Great Salt Lake and the Bonneville Salt Flats, and then Lake Tahoe, and yeah, that's about how my trips went.
Did you buy any Bonneville sea salt?
I did not. I was walking out there when you called me, though.
Yeah, I teased my wife about sea salt because she got this Nepal sea salt,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sitting there going, since when was the ocean that high up in Nepal? They just turn around and put names on there. Oh, it's Timbuktu sea salt. Really? All right. But if you're in the salt flats, they ought to be selling that stuff.
Right?
They do, and they also use it for their road salt in the area.
Mm-hmm. That was obvious.
But it's really cool to see. I mean, you go driving across there and you can see where people have tried to drive out onto it, and most of it isn't dry enough to do that. Only areas to the far western side where the Bonneville Salt Flats are actually usually dry enough to drive on. But you'll see the tire tracks in the salt, and on the way out there, somebody had actually taken and stuck a mailbox in the salt, standing up with the flag up.
Okay, you saw that too. I saw that too, and I unfortunately was going by too fast to get a picture of it.
I know, I saw it too, and yeah, it's funny, and it's like, well, there ain't no way a mail carrier's going down there to pick that up.
No, I saw that and laughed about that as well.
Oh yeah, there's lots of rock art out there, all kinds of stuff. People put names out there and things like that. You can actually see it from Google Maps satellite view if you look.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the ball tree.
Yep.
They were working on it the last time when we came back through. They had people out there working on it because it looks like one of the balls fell off and shattered.
Yeah, it looked like that going out there. I saw that, the ball laying in half on the ground.
Yeah. So, Convention 2024. That was quite interesting in a lot of regards. It's my first time to the Reno Convention Center. I've been to Reno before, but that was my first time at that convention center casino. Like Bill said, really nice place, really well kept too. I mean, usually you see a casino and that's been around for a while and stuff's starting to wear out and things like that. But they've actually kept this one up really nicely. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, very
It's a
nice.
very nice location.
And the layout for the stuff was pretty well thought out for even the caucus and things like that.
Yeah, it was well planned. I'll have to give Patrick Fitz his due on that. And everything seemed to flow kind of seamlessly. So there was no interruption of services or convention events or anything like that, except for closing down on, what was it, Wednesday? For the
banquet.
The banquet, thank you, for the banquet. We had to get out of there early and they had to switch everything around, but even still, that seemed to be, seamless transition for the hotel staff. So it was good. It really was.
And like Mountain Dew said, they had really good air filtration, couldn't really smell the cigarette smoke. Yes, and they made sure, I was actually down in the casino area a few times, and everywhere there was a opening to the second floor, there was no smoking right around it. So that was another thing they did to keep it from going up into the other parts of the building.
Mm-hmm. Say well thought out. It really was.
Mm-hmm. But even with all the good stuff, I do have to mention this. 3 times people had to step up and say something about over disparaging comments on the floor. It wasn't just, that person's bad or standard comments people made. There were some blatant comments that if they were made in the Postal Service would be violations of the Joint Statements on Violence and Harassment in the Workplace, to the point where myself, another delegate, and President Maston all had to make statements on it. These disparaging comments on the floor, as I said when I spoke on it, turned first-timers into last-timers. We gotta stop fighting amongst ourselves. We gotta stop going at each other. We aren't the enemies. Nobody on that floor is an enemy when it comes to union details. We may not like the person, but we don't make such rude comments on the floor to the point where first timers are like, I'm not coming back. And I've had a couple first timers tell me they're not coming back because of the comments made on the floor by our own brothers and sisters.
We had a lot of first timers there too.
We beat
I heard
last
it
year's
was-
record.
I heard it was a record number.
So, that's another win for us, getting people involved and stepping up. And then you have this turn around and just turn them right off to even participating.
But it was good to see some of the first timers from last year there again this year as well. There were second timers there, which was really good to see. But overall, the atmosphere was quite hopeful amongst a lot of the delegation that was there of the carriers that I spoke to. And the fact that we had new people as well as the old speaking at the mics, people not afraid to actually step up and speak their mind.
Boy, it got quiet. What happened there?
I don't know.
Well, I'm just contemplating going off on my mini rant, now.
Might as well- if you're gonna do
Might
it,
as
get it
well.
over with. I'm
Get
finishing
it
my
over with
dinner.
now.
Okay. Let's see. This is okay. First, I'm going to take a personal point of privilege and apologize to Heather Leon, our full-time ADR in PA District 2. I had made a comment that she hadn't gotten back to us in 4 days in regards to our fire at Westchester. And I misspoke because it took me 4 days to find her phone number in our PA mailbag. So, Heather, sorry. This is your public apology announcement. And she's been on top of our situation ever since. So anyway, this is my rant. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is not about individual wins. This is about wins for the craft. And I think we made some major gains this year as far as the national board's concerned and about qualified people stepping up for us. My problem with our national board is now we still have a president who, after 16 years on the board, is going in and negotiate a contract against his friend Louis DeJoy. And, this is a personal point of view, okay? I have no confidence whatsoever in Don Madsen negotiations in regards to Table 2 and Table 4, about our pay increases, about the no steps for the RCAs who were paid the same 15 years ago as they are today. This is about people sitting there and saying, well, you can't change leadership in the middle of negotiations. Well, like I stated, and let me explain, all of my caucus appearances and everything I put out there this year was for the craft, for the craft, for the craft. It was not denigrating anybody. It was positivity. If you go into negotiations and you have hired a whole table of experts to assist you, and you have a track record of 16 years of not getting anything accomplished, whether it be as an executive committee person or as the vice president, then, ladies and gentlemen, what do you expect him to give us when the contract comes time to be ratified? If you change in the middle of negotiations, which only started several months ago, you now have a different person with a different perspective looking at the contract, negotiating on behalf of the carriers, not themselves. Now, I did not bring this up, and I wanted to, so I will put it out on the podcast, and this is the last time I'll bring it up. Don Madsen has a route that's 320 miles away from where he lives in California. It takes 2 subs to handle it. It's overburdened. And somebody brought up the point that, well, he felt bad for his RCA back in his hometown that they weren't going career, so he bid on an office, further away. How magnanimous of Don to do that. That's so kind-hearted. If you believe that he gave up a lower valued route for his sub and bid on an overburdened K route, which pads his I-3 from the post office, you're in the same boat as I am. He didn't do it for his sub. He did it for himself. This is the same guy that used his union miles paid for by the union to take his family on vacation to Hawaii. This is the guy that's representing our interest. And it appalled me that these old heads, these, stick in the muds per se, follow the leader type individuals sitting there saying, well, you can't change leadership. Leadership change is exactly what we needed. We didn't get it. And I pray for you guys, the upcoming contract, because of the fact that it's not going to get any better. And, I kept everything positive, did the best I could. We had a great caucus night. I had 6 great caucus rooms, including SAC, which surprised me. I had one, good room. And then I had 4 rooms where I got set up. One was a gentleman from New York. He's a young man from New York who asked me last year about anger issues. And, I made fun of him by, screaming at him that I didn't have anger issues. So this year he gets up and approaches the mic and asks me a question. I said, I recognize you from last year saying that I had anger issues. He goes, yeah. Well, why are you asking me the same question about anger issues this year? Why are you poking the bear? So, of course, I answered his question, nicely. As he turned his back, then I screamed at him that I didn't have anger issues. Of course, I got a laugh out of the whole room. And I had a gentleman turn around and ask me that my state board didn't support me. And I asked him, well, how would you know that since the ballots are secret? Have you seen their votes? And he said, well, that's what I heard. And I said, well, I haven't heard anything. And I said, I really don't care because of the fact that I'm going for the carrier vote, not the state vote. I had a lady misconstrue a 24/7 where I said, if a local ADR area DR gets a phone call from a carrier, they need to answer the phone call within 24 hours. And I said, and this is a service job, so you're basically on call 7 days a week. And she got confused saying, we're not on call 24/7. That's not what I said. But she was antagonistic about the entire point. Turned around and had another lady, and it was funny because of the fact that she gave me a very confrontational question. And then at the end of the caucus, as I'm walking down, she said, would you consider running for vice president? And I said, if I have to work for Don Madsen, no. I said, because I can't work for somebody I don't respect. And she said, that's a great answer. I mean, you feel like you're being set up, like they've actually got these people in there asking these questions just to try to trip you up. And I didn't fall for it per se. But the fact of the matter is that the entire convention, the election, everything is for the carrier's interest, not mine, not James, not Kristen's, but for the carriers. We accomplished a lot. Like I said, a lot of first timers, 4 board positions, and hopefully a 5th will change next year. But the fact of the matter is that they were more contentious towards us, and there was even comments made towards myself in regards to out in an alleyway. I was like, okay, And then to top it all off, when I get back home, I get a letter from a South Dakota mail processing facility where I had submitted our letters out to all the state officers, NSS people for all 50 states and Puerto Rico. And across the top of my top page, it said, if you podcast Union Busters. And it really hurt that, somebody took the time to do this. We don't advocate union busting, but the hate out there, like James said, it has no place in our craft, in our union, but it is overwhelmingly stirred up and basically fermented by the old guard. And I'm sad for the craft. I really am. In the rant, you can edit what you want, Kristen, but that's the first and last time you'll hear me speak on this issue, and I'm done addressing that. But, I had to get it off my chest.
Kristen, talk about your experiences through caucus and all that stuff.
My caucuses weren't all that bad. There was, definitely the questions of why I was decertified and as a local steward, and I owned up to every single one of it. I plain and simple said it was because of this podcast, and when I first started it, was basically, as Bill will know, because he was there in the beginning, it was about engagement and getting people why, to be active and why it's important to be active, and and throwing some educational stuff in there. And then it just kind of went and got uncontained, which it has. And so I myself have plans for the future on what we're going to be doing and bringing it back to its roots. Some of the hard criticism came from some NSS employees, which is fine. I did take time after caucus and talk to a couple of them, and just to let them know that I did appreciate their honesty and and their insight and their side of things, and I got good response back, talking to them outside of caucus and stuff, and going forward with my career. All in all, it wasn't that bad. It was pretty much what I expected it to be. And, I took it as they dished it out to me. Not a problem. That's what you do.
I agree. It's, it was a lot of the same comments as last year, this year that I got, same questions, a few new ones, but the biggest takeaway out of all of it was most of it was revolving around what we do here, and us being decertified were the two biggest things. And being that we were in the word decertified and lumping us up with the decertify movement, which we have publicly said we do not support decertifying the union. We support strengthening this union and getting it to do what it's supposed to be doing. But they don't listen to that part. And one of the people asked why I chose to continue doing this with the threat of decertification from national union representation, sending us letters that if we don't, we'll be decertified. Well, I remember at the beginning of my postal career swearing an oath that as a federal employee, I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies both foreign and domestic. In the very first part of the Constitution is our First Amendment right to freedom of speech and freedom of press. And that is why I have chosen to be on this platform throughout all of this. Because when I swear an oath, I uphold that oath. And defending my Constitution and your Constitution takes the forefront of my mind when it comes to that. But the biggest takeaway that we can get from this national convention overall is that though we were not elected, we collectively, us, our listeners, and all the people that talk to us online and social media and stuff, have made change. Two of the most important positions in this union, the Director of Labor Relations and the Director of Steward Operations, were changed over. The two people that took it over, John Adams and Nikki Phillips, return calls on the weekends. They talk to people on the weekends. You pay them to be there for you, and they are there. And I heard from the stewards that attended the training this week that even though they only had a week to prepare for this training, they did a hell of a job. And they appreciate the open candor they had and the training that they received. So I am very hopeful over this next year of what they can do and what will come between those two positions. So this is looking really hopeful for our craft, and I hope that the four new people that are elected to the board will be making the change in the board with their votes and with their voices to get this union where it needs to be. And it will be up to us, this podcast, the people that listen, and the people that talk to us on social media, to make sure we hold them accountable and be mindful and watchful of how our union proceeds over the next year. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that was against us, well, the two biggest things. One was having that black mark against us as being decertified local stewards, which I understand. But the second biggest thing was the lack of experience, whether that been, further up in NSS or state board. I did have a delegate from another state on the elevator after convention let out on Friday. Rode the elevator up with this individual that did say that they wanted to see me back next year for executive committeeman, which I did nominate down this year. But like I said, when you've got already have 8 people running and you throw a ninth in the hat, I wasn't expecting much. But I did have many ask me if I was willing to nominate down or go lower at caucus, and I said yes, and I held to that. I was nominated down for executive committee, so I followed through on that. But as far as the experience, I get it. I still have 19 and a half years left of this career, so yeah, I'm have no issues with taking a step back, and I have been told by several in my state that I will be running for state board next year. So it's a start. But yeah, we do have, I did like to see the positive changes that came about this year with the 2 executive committees and Director of Labor and Steward Ops. I definitely know that is a few steps in the positive direction.
It's funny how you say, that the decertification. I don't think it even came up once for me. The podcast did. And I think the only reason that actually came up was because of the fact that they were saying something about, well, I misquoted something, and I asked the lady, I said, well, what did I misquote? She couldn't remember. I said, okay, so I misquoted something, but we often will turn around and follow up the next week and correct ourselves when we find we've made a mistake. I says, can you say that for your national board? And she goes, oh, they don't make mistakes. And I said, well, ask Don if we're on call 7 days a week. And she goes, he never said that. I said, no, he put it in the magazine. And it's like, and never put a retraction in there. So I mean, I guess we're held to different standards because we're not part of the political party. And that's the one thing about being sort of rebels fighting the system from outside because of the fact that we haven't climbed the ladder the way they have. But where has that gotten us, folks? Where has that gotten us? So we've made some changes. We've had plenty of people, sign up in regards to being delegates. We've had a lot of positive reinforcement from all our people that we've joined into our trials and tribulations over the years. And it was good to see that. It was good to see the groundswell and changing those 2 positions, James, on the national board. It really was. And it was impressive. It was impressive to see John Adams win so handily the Director of Labor Relations position. Says a lot in regards to how people felt for the job being done by our past Director of Labor Relations. And, I'm ready to give full support to both John and Nikki in regards to their positions.
Yep. And I will say this, I had one person comment that when I was in the caucus about how many resolutions I put forth this year. And I was a little taken aback by that because half my resolutions were for my state, the other half were for national, and half of those didn't make it to national from state. But apparently I put forth way too many resolutions by myself, even though my state actually did not have the most resolutions at national this year, which kind of threw me off for a second. And then they brought it about, will I be putting that many together as director of steward operations? I'm like, I'm not allowed to do that as director of steward operations. I'd have to put them through my state and my counties and the state and so on. And then they asked, and would you be objecting to so many of them? And I'm like, I would be on the stage. I'm not allowed to object to them. It's the caucus floor that's to object, but it is what it is. And But that's the key is we need that change. We need those resolutions. And it's not just coming from me. It's coming from every state in the United States and the territory of Puerto Rico. And we have to understand that a lot of the issues that others are facing are the same issues we're facing here. And other people actually could word it better than we do. That's the greatest thing about this convention is it could be worded in a better way. And you go, I like that one better than mine.
And lest we forget, we almost had 400 resolutions put forth.
Yeah, we did. 383 non-binding.
Yeah. And James only put in half of those.
I do want to tell a little story before I forget. So we had a first timer. It was Monday as I was sitting at my booth that came up to me, and a non-delegate, but first timer at National Convention. And I looked up and I saw her name tag, and I about jumped out of my seat. And if she's listening, hi Tiff. Her and I had been Facebook friends since neither one of us worked at the post office, and she started in 2012 and I started in 2014. We got connected through what everybody would call back at the time the crunchy mom groups, the cloth diapering groups. I was doing that with my daughter. That was my own business, was a natural parenting store prior to joining the post office, and back then I was also in groups selling, doing bulk fabric orders for making your own cloth diapers and whatnot. And that's how her and I connected. And we had never met in person until Monday when she walked up to my booth and introduced herself. And I jumped up and I wanted to give her the biggest hug in the world. It was absolutely awesome to finally meet her in person. So I'm still thrilled about it. It's just one of those things that I wasn't expecting to happen. And that was her first convention, and she will be back. She will be coming to National Convention more. So yeah, that was
great to hear.
It was just really awesome because, here's somebody that you connected with outside of something totally different. You both end up doing the same thing again, line of work, and then you finally, 13, 14 years later here we are. It's been about 13 years ago. And, getting to meet each other in person for the very first time. It was really, really cool. But yeah, no, this convention, it was, the atmosphere was different than I've noticed in the previous ones I've been to. And, there was quite a bit of support. But again, a lot of it came down to contract negotiation time as well as, the lack of experience that they felt that we didn't have. But all in all, I am not disappointed in this year's National Convention at all. Like I said, talking to people that really slung the criticism and talking to them outside of caucus and, letting them know that I appreciated their insight and their side of things and, to get good response back from that as well. And, one of them actually gave me a couple good ideas that we can talk about on future episodes. Trying to stay away from the steward advice, I should say, but still leaning more towards the educational and why it's important to be engaged and be active and to educate yourself.
Well, that's a fine dance that you have to.
It is
balance because of the fact that a lot of the people listeners don't get the steward advice that they're entitled to. And or are uncomfortable in regards to reaching out to somebody who's not their local steward, or even they are uncomfortable reaching out to their local steward because you're not always going to be best friends with the people who represent you.
Oh, exactly.
And vice versa too. But the fact of the matter is that there's got to be a point where you can sit there and cross that line delicately in regards to giving advice without infringing on the steward aspect of it. Because if we hold back too much, then we're not being of service to the listeners either. So, we've got to find that delicate balance between crossing the line and just stepping on it once or twice, Oh,
I agree. There's definitely ways to walk that tight line, and we'll work on that more. But no, I said. Go ahead.
You're talking about the experience, okay? Well, I've got real world experience dealing with contracts with, international organizations, suppliers, vendors, trucking services. You have years of experience in the hospitality business that, which would suit you well for the vice presidency in regards to setting up conventions, as well as your OJI training and everything else. These are experiences that, they don't take into consideration. And yet, after all said and done, just like with me, that several people approach me after things have occurred, and they discuss it with you, Chris, and they find out, well, hold it, there's more to her than what we're seeing.
Yep.
Because we're in the crowd, we're in the flock per se. We follow the the head sheep, and they don't think for themselves, and that's kind of disappointing that people feel that way. But I guess that's the way society is. I mean, who are you to believe? What are you to believe? If you get that person-to-person interaction, that works so much better because of the fact that you can sway them or at least present your perspective for them to have a better understanding of the individual that you are.
Yeah, no, it is. And being able to talk to people directly, even afterwards, to definitely helps. Then you can kind of get the sense of where they were coming from at the same time. So yeah, I mean, talking to people one-on-one really does help in ways. But again, it is kind of the herd mentality at the same time. But like I said, it's getting better. It's we have a future ahead of us, and I'm looking forward to the positive steps we've made. James,
I am also looking to the future of this. I'm looking to the future of this. I am staying down on my optimism on this because I know that in the past, some people come out of the gate really strong and then it slowly subsides. But now is the time for everybody in the craft to start stepping up. We've seen what we could do in just less than a year. What can we do in the next 12 months? What can we make happen in the next 12 months? I challenged the national board members when I did my concession and removed my name from the nomination list to double the number of people who became non-dues paying members, to bring them back into this union. 65 people restarted paying their dues in the last year. Now, the national board needs to bring 130 of those people each. That's 9 people on that board. That's over 1,000 people in added dues into this union. It can't be new people that sign up as they get through academy and stuff like that. It has to be people who have pulled their dues for one reason or another, because those are the people that we need back in this craft. We need back speaking in this union. Those are people that we need to hear their voices, and they need to use their voice in both their vote, in resolutions, at conventions, in union meetings. That is where we need the people participating. I understand after this election, some people said they were going to pull their dues and stuff like that. That is not what we need right now. We need to strengthen this union, because if our current new director of labor relations and new director of steward operations start doing the job that the position is supposed to be doing, they're going to need those dues to pay for all the grievances that they're going to be working on. That is what our dues money is for, mostly, is to pay for grievances, to help support the process of grievances, to pay for the lawyers, pay for the workers that work on it and researchers, etc., in order to set up for either the step 4s or arbitration. Because if they do what I think they're going to do, we're going to raise our arbitration win percentage 7-fold.
Only time will tell on that.
But that's what I'm hoping for, because we need that. We need those arbitration wins. We need to get the people involved. We need to get the people engaged. And it's time to step up. Our national board members need to step up. Our state board members need to step up. Our NSS needs to step up. We need to step up our game just before this new contract comes around, because we need to review that contract. We need to look at every single aspect of it, because one of the biggest arguments I made on the floor was several resolutions in the non-binding section were about the MOU of regular carriers working extra, taking city carrier pivots, extras off of other people's routes, working on their NS Day as well as on Amazon Sunday. Those were all voted down. But we need to be cognizant that that is something that may come up in this contract. We need to be cognizant of the pay that they're giving us, because I passed a Walmart warehouse where the starting pay is $36 an hour. Walmart, $36 an hour starting pay at warehouse worker. We need to be mindful of that next step, and we need active dues paying members paying attention to this, because this contract is going to make or break this craft. That is our next thing that's coming up, and we need to be mindful of that.
And that's like what I've always said in the past, too. I mean, when you've only got roughly 20% of the craft actually even voting on a ratification, and they want to come back and say, oh, it passed by 83%. But what they're not saying is it passed by 83% of the 20% of the craft. I mean, everybody gets a copy of the tentative agreement prior to ratification votes going out. Every dues-paying member gets a copy. It gets sent to your house. Well, you know, like the National Magazine, people need to take the time and actually go through it and see what the changes are and vote. I mean, could you, and I've been saying this for years, is could you imagine the difference things could be if even 50% of the craft returned a ballot? No, that's what it takes and why it's important to be involved. Even, you know, I get, you know, going to local meetings, I would love to see more than 2 people outside of the board at one of my local meetings that was a normal meeting and didn't have a DR or ADR there to speak about a certain topic. I would love to see that. I mean, I wish it would happen. I really do. But, and I get where sometimes it's not always feasible for people to go to local meetings with, you know, childcare and work hours and locations and the times and locations of the meetings. I get that at times, but if people would just take that time to read a tentative contract and actually vote whether they want to ratify it or not, that's your choice to choose, but to actually return that ballot and actually vote. I mean, that is one way of having a voice. Every dues-paying member has a voice, whether they realize it or not. A lot of people don't think they do, you know, well, for one reason or another, but every dues-paying member has a voice.
And look how many new delegates we had this year, first-timers.
Yes.
So, you know, they stepped up and, you know, they realized, okay, I do have a voice. I have a say in the direction of this craft.
Yeah. I mean, resolutions. It's never too soon to start resolutions for the next annual meeting, whether that be something for your state or something to go on for national. It's never too early to start doing resolutions. And, you know, going to a local meeting, going to a regional conference. Regional conferences are great. They're not business. They're all informational. You get a chance to talk one-on-one with your national board and your NRO. It's, you know, being to just try and take the time to do that stuff. I mean, it can really, really make a difference.
Yeah, I remember meeting you at our Mid-States Regional Conference in 2022, Kristen.
Yes, Council Bluffs, Iowa. We drove through there, didn't we? Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's where James and I met, it's, and then I saw him again, in the booster later on, and, or going to state meetings. I've got one coming up in October.
Yep.
I have been invited to go to SAC with some individuals, so hopefully I can work it out. I would really like to try to get another regional conference in this year. One, if not two more than just mid-states. But, we'll see where we're sitting financial-wise and leave-wise and RCA-wise by that point. But, it's, I look at all these people and you hear one excuse or another. But as somebody who has been active, I mean, I went to my first local meeting 5 months after I hired in and was elected to my local board. As an RCA, RCAs have voices too. Every dues-paying member has a voice. It's just whether or not you know how to use that voice. And the ones that that are just complacent, and then they want to gripe and complain, and it's just like, why can't you just take and turn that energy that you're using to complain and gripe and bitch about it into actually doing something about it? And, that's, I guess that's just, I'm one of those that has been doing something about it from the beginning in one way or another.
And I will say this, using your voice doesn't mean you have to step up and make resolutions and talk about them, or even try and find somebody to suspend the rules to put your 3-page resolution in at state convention.
Yeah.
You can do it just with your vote. You can do it by being involved in the meetings, just going to them and listening to everything that's going on, paying attention to what your manager is saying versus what it says in the manuals and PL 603, the M38, the national agreement, things like that. Making sure you're paying attention to what's going on and then exercising your right to vote on it. Your vote is a more important voice than stepping up and saying something.
Well, on another note, you know how we talk about the involvement of the retirees in our delegate selection process, and this is from a personal point of view. Excuse me. I've always said that there's good retirees in regards to the information they provide, the support, the knowledge, and everything else. And it was funny that I was addressed in regards to not getting my state's support. And 4 of the retirees in my state supported me, and 2 others from other states came up and told me, that they were, giving me their support. So there are retirees out there that can see the situations that we're addressing and the concerns we have for our craft. Excuse me. Are willing to actually, put their vote in for change.
Yeah, and I will say this. The retirees that I've spoke to also were very up to date on a lot of the things going on in this union. It's hard for anybody to try and downplay the role of a retiree, but the biggest role a retiree ever has is teaching a regular carrier how to become a retired carrier. That is their biggest job. That is what they need to be doing. And the ones that I've spoken to have been there proving that they can still stand with the rest of us and help in a lot of ways.
Frequency says a retiree thought Rex was a new name for the yearly mail count. And that's what, concerns me. I've seen several posts on social media where people are concerned that their paychecks are going to be changing month to month now because of the Rex program. And I'm sitting there going, please, don't go down that rabbit hole.
And that comes with the
That'll cause panic. That'll cause a panic.
And I think a lot of that came with the announcement of the interim adjustments as well.
Right.
And then you got management spewing that it could change. And, a lot of this is just, yeah. Speaking of which,
it's just misinformation across the board. You have managers that aren't getting the full information from their managers, and those managers aren't getting the information from their managers. And our stuff, you only get that information from the union website. So the issue is there's not a Cliff Notes version or Rex for Dummies system out there for carriers to actually break it down a lot easier for a lot of people to understand. And I think that's the biggest trouble that we have, is just the breakdown of what it actually means.
And yeah, we have the 99-page guide, but unless you understand a lot of the jargon, there isn't a Cliff Notes version for it. But, and that's something, that I've been thinking about too for the future is breaking some of that stuff down and making sure we have the interpretive correctly prior to doing that. But, I think going forward, we're going to be taking this back to the roots of what I intended for this all to be. Yeah, no scanning, no money. That's a good one. As Bill always said, what goes in your scanner goes in your... No scanning, no money. But I want to give a shout out to the 6 individuals that walked with me during caucus, 4 of which were first-timers to National Convention. And I thank you for going through that mad rush of room to room to room with me. It was nice to have a group of people this year. 2 years ago, I just had one person that we pretty much had to beg to get permission to go with me, so I wasn't alone. James has walked it alone. He understands. But again, a big heartfelt thank you to those 6 individuals that walked with me. And it was really appreciated. My knees still hurt. I'm still recovering too. It's okay.
I do have to thank Richard Ellerson from New York, who was my campaign manager at National when my previous person was only an alternate and could not actually nominate me at the time. And Kathleen Miller from my state, who also walked with me. They were very instrumental in helping me through each caucus room, as well as handing out stuff and giving me constructive criticism from each room. They did a really wonderful bang-up job on that, so I really do have to send my utmost thanks to them, as well as all the people in the podcast and on social media that have supported me along the way, as well as the rest of us. You guys have been very instrumental in us doing this, so I just have to put that thanks out there for that.
And I got to thank Jamie Powell because she filled in admirably for you, Kristen, in regards to making sure I didn't go off track anywhere.
Kudos, thank you.
Well, and the thing of it was that out of every room, out of first 7 rooms, like I said, were the 6 were great. The 7th was mediocre. But nothing negative. And even through the 4 that had what I consider board plants, Jamie kept saying stay on the message, you're doing fine, don't worry about these people. And I don't worry about those people. Like I said, it was one of those things where you just sat there going, really? You're going to ask me the same question that you did last year about my anger? Of course, I got angry at him. So, but it was funny. And I also pulled it. It was funny because Pennsylvania was my last room, my home state. And somebody asked me, "Well, Bill, did you lose your temper?" And I screamed, "No, I didn't lose my temper." And they all laughed and go, "Yeah, we know you, Bill." So, yeah, but Jamie did a very good job in keeping me, down the path.
Yeah, it's and having those 4 first-timers really that gave them an insight of what candidates actually go through when it comes to caucus in the different rooms. Yeah. They were troopers, and I appreciate it definitely. All 6 of them. One from my home state, of course. My gal pal there, Lynette, and roommate Jen, and Pam, and Diane, and her man. And it was nice to have everybody there. And thank you again. I appreciate it. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
frequency saying PA had a buffet. I'm telling you, I thought I was at a restaurant when I walked in our room. Wings and you know tacos and this. And I was like, oh my god, it's a restaurant here. But PA does it up good.
unarmed stormtroopers. That's a good way to put it. But yeah, and now we get ready for, Orlando again next year, and whether or not I'm actually going to run, the future is unseen at this point in time. I do know I'm going to step up and run for my state board for sure next year. And we'll see what that goes. When I answered back to the one delegate in the elevator, they really wanted to see me come back and run for executive committee next year. I said, well, if I'm not on my state board, we'll see. We'll see what's going and where life leads us when it comes to this time next year. Either way, I'll be at National Convention. We'll be celebrating Little Man's first birthday during National Convention. So he will be there. Actually, my boyfriend's even talking about going down to Orlando too. So I may bring the whole family with me. I know.
I think I had the best response to somebody being on the elevator. It was an older couple, and they said, "Are you here for convention?" I said, "No, I found the badge, and I go into each room and eat for free every day." And they're looking at me. I said, "Look, they got good food in there," and they just kind of just turned away. I thought, "What the hell? Gotta have some fun."
Right. So yeah, you guys got anything else for tonight?
No, I'm pretty good for the night.
Yeah, I'm done. I got that off my chest. So,
All right,
yeah.
guys, and it wasn't even that bad, Bill.
No. But the thing of it gets me is, you want to talk about experience. You don't take into account that, we've had experiences outside the post office. You want to talk about leadership. Leadership is not bad mouthing your craft, and your craft includes everybody in the union and not in the union because of the fact that you represent every one of them. You can't badmouth people and then turn around and call yourself a leader. It just doesn't work that way, and it's just, hey, like I said, we know we're fighting an uphill battle. Okay, we're fighting the decertification. We're fighting the podcast. We're union busters now. Oh my God. That came out of left field. But the fact of the matter is, we're true to our word, and our word is, we're here for everybody. We represent everybody. We truly do. And I can say it no better than, if it's not for the craft, then for what? Because if it's for yourself, you're not doing your job. It's not about being in a position of authority or leadership, okay? It's a position of service to the craft. And I guess that's the message that people just didn't get. It's not about the individual. It's about the 120,000 people that make up the rural carrier craft.
Well, they would have known that if they'd actually listened to the podcast. Just saying, it's the truth.
James, I sat there and explained as clear as day that you need to answer a phone call within 24 hours. If you're ADR or DR, you need to be able to respond 7 days a week, because people can't wait all the time. They might wait till it's the last day to file a grievance. And next thing you know, the lady turned around. I'm not on duty 24/7. I didn't say that. Just spoke to you, and you didn't even get that. So, what the hell? You can't fix stupid unless you hit them with a frying pan. Trust me, my wife's hit me with more than a frying pan.
I am not surprised. Oh, okay. Mini mail survey number 4 is done with now. New, the 4241As are supposed to come out September 28th. Don't forget to ask for your 4241M, because management doesn't have to print those. Though some management is good and will print both for you. Make sure if you don't get the M that you do request it at that time. New evaluations are scheduled to take place October 5th, which is the beginning of the new guarantee period. As we get closer to that, we'll remind everybody what that means. And anything else? Last words there, James?
This is a small victory for the craft. The changeover that has happened on the board will be instrumental in getting this unionship righted. And I am hopeful. I am positive for it. And I'm looking forward to working with them as we go on through this next year. It's going to be rough. We got a new contract coming out eventually that we're going to have to go through with a fine-tooth comb before we actually vote on it. Don't just take somebody's word for it. Go through it yourself. Read it. Find out what they gave up to give you the positives you see. Compare it to our current contract. Compare it to the contract before that. Make sure you go through it, because this is the contract we're going to be following for the next few years. So make sure you stay on it. Same with your 4240 ones. Go through them, fine tooth comb, because you never know what management might have missed. And no matter what the results of your previous disputes were, always dispute issues you have. Leave a paper trail. But other than that, it's looking like it's going to be a nice week again for me down here in weather-wise. So I hope everybody else has a good week at work. And no matter what happens, no matter what contract we get, always remember, when we stand up, we show management we're all in this together. Bill?
Well, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, James. I think we made more than a little gains on the national board because we actually have two people in positions of responsibility who will react, will return phone calls, will basically engage with us in regards to concerns that we have. So I've never seen that type of change, a shift in attitudes that is going to benefit all of us. And they'll answer phone calls from non-union members also because of the fact that they still have to represent you. Of course, you may have to work your way through the chain of command to get there, but the fact of the matter is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and I feel very confident in that respect. My concern is the contract in it getting settled. Of course, Renfro for the NALC has been putting out statements for the past 8 months that the contract's almost done, and it's still not done. And they're well over a year and a half now, I think, into their negotiations. So I don't foresee anybody moving before Christmas to settle our contract. It would be a small miracle, but the post office is not going to want to settle the contract before year's end because of the Christmas overtime. They want to save that money for themselves. It'll be retroactive in our raises, but it won't be retroactive for our overtime. So that's one of those questions of, are they going to wait to the end of the year, the beginning of the year? I think it'll be the beginning of next year, maybe around Valentine's Day or so. But that's the timetable I would foresee if we go by the language where somebody put in the comments column that it's 99% done, hearsay. I'm worried for the craft, and that's why I keep beating myself, at the national level because of the fact that I think that our craft deserves better. I really do. And, the question was posed to Don Madsen that Bill may have something personal against you because I ran against him as vice president and twice as president. And the thing of it is that it's not the individual, it's the position. He's just in my way. So, I want better for the craft. And I'm not sure what his intentions are, but my heart, I don't see him being concerned as much as I do. I am, because of the fact that, I'm out there with you every day. And I see it and I hear it and I talk about it. But we'll see. I'm hopeful for the future. James and Kristen and Toasty and everybody else is, all out there putting themselves out there for everybody listening and everybody not listening because of the fact that we feel that we deserve better, and we do. So God bless you all. Be safe. Do your jobs in most efficient, professional manner as you can, and make sure you make that most important delivery of the day, you to your loved ones at the end of the day. God bless you.
Thank you, guys. Also, Relief Day work list and Sunday work list sign-ups start on Saturday the 14th. Those are supposed to be up for 10 days. Go into effect on, I do believe it is October 5th as well. So we have those coming up, as well as the results from the mini mail survey coming up as well. And yeah, guys, it's a time. I mean, we're almost into the new guarantee period, and we'll probably touch on that a little bit more before that starts on what that actually entails. But other than that, I hope everybody has a good, safe week, and we'll be back next week.
Episode 88, Crazy 8 2024 convention recap.
What he said.
Kristen?
What Bill just said. Yeah. No, you sounded nothing like me,
Kristen?
but thank you.